Hi, this is Joe Shannon. I'm a lawyer, a husband, a father of 6 kids, and I also host a podcast called Opening Statement with Joe Shannon. Please consider listening to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and any other folks that host podcasts. Just Google Joe Shannon and podcast, and you'll find it. I hope you enjoyed the show. So we're really pumped that we have a Shannon Law Group alumni here who is one of the MVPs of our firm's history, Nathan Marchese. Nathan was a law clerk here and then served as a lawyer. He's a contractor for us and just did a great job. Helped us put together a number of different books. Headed out to California, practiced law out there. Ended up starting a family, and he's got a new business just going. And so I wanted to talk to him a little bit about that and kind of catch up with him. So how you doing, Nathan?
Great, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So Nathan, you're a licensed lawyer. You're a fellow that grew up in Lisle, and now you're off doing great things. So give us an update of what's going on right now.
Absolutely. Well, my wife and I are, after practicing law for several years, my wife and I right now are starting a business ourselves. I think for anyone who's watched the podcast, I think she was on last week, and that company's Florocracy. We sell online flower arrangements, but what we really aim to do is to help people form connections in times and around things that might be a little bit difficult to express kind of in their own words, and express themselves in ways they might find difficult, basically through flowers to create kind of meaningful connections.
It sounds easy, but I know this is a pretty complex thing to put it together. So, you know, you've been working on this, and you've been the architect of it. What can we see that's going to happen in late 2020 with this company? What do you think?
Great question. Well, we are kind of in a limited sort of testing phase publicly now. We've got the site is open right now at florocracy.com, but we are we're not really pushing anything. We haven't formally launched. We're more kind of getting a few people in there and kind of testing and making some rapid adjustments, sort of based on the interactions we see from people visiting the site. So trying to take a kind of agile approach, seeing what's working and where we can further develop and enhance the experience, and basically create something that people are really gonna love.
That's great. And then tell me about your team of people that you have in Rockford. That I think it's really cool that you guys decided to launch this business in Rockford, which is a great Renaissance story.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Sarajevo's hometown, and when we started the company actually out in San Diego. We were there for a few years, but we kind of had the opportunity to think about where would be the best long-term place, and Rockford really did seem like an amazing fit for a number of reasons. Largely, though, because of its infrastructure and workforce. So it's for those that don't know, it's a manufacturing city. It has a storied history in particularly furniture and machine parts and avionics, but it kind of like Detroit and some other Rust Belt cities, it did get hit quite hard when we lost a lot of manufacturing. But it has this incredibly talented population, particularly of engineers and developers and kind of great minds that have not only are incredibly talented, but are really enthusiastic about the possibilities for Rockford and what can happen for that city, and the kind of as you said, Renaissance story, the great kind of comeback that city is making. We're super excited to be a part of that, and as a result of that, you know, we've put together this amazing team right there in Rockford. We have one of the best web developers, software developers, I would say, in the city that's joined our team recently. Scott Wells, he's really supercharged kind of our tech development process, taken charge there, and is doing amazing things, helping us on that front. But we've also got a great team of on our operations side, both the manufacturing, kind of overseeing processes, kind of helping us develop everything that's kind of actually putting things together in a way that that really kind of best serves our customers and is responsive to their needs, and making sure that we're kind of hitting all the marks for their expectations, and making sure with our follow-up that we are, you know, helping them create those connections that are why they came to us in the first place. So yeah, our team, we couldn't be more blessed. That was actually one of the more challenging things for us putting together the company as well, assembling our team and getting that going. It took one of the biggest areas of development, I would say, for both of us, was figuring out how to find the right people and effectively get everyone on the same page, on the same track, and effectively learn how to lead them.
That's cool. So the this COVID thing didn't come at a great time for anybody, obviously, but for startups, it's got to be a little bit frustrating to
Yeah.
you get everything together, and then all of a sudden this COVID thing hits sometime in, you know, early 2020. Here we are, you know, around Memorial Day 2020, and still seems like it's a paralysis in Illinois.
Oh yeah, it's wild. I don't know if you had to touch on it at, in Sarah Ava's interview, but the mayor has actually reached out to her and asked her to lead the council for getting small business restarted here in Rockford. So that's actually been exciting from that perspective, getting to think about, well, as bad as things are now, you know, under these circumstances, what can we do to try to come out of this, you know, okay, and even maybe better on the other side. So that's been exciting. But as far as, yes, the company itself, I think it is such a case by case situation when it comes to COVID. I mean, I think based on everything from size to what in particular you're doing, you know, what area of business you're in, the actual outcomes are hugely different. You know, in some ways, with people being very isolated right now, it's actually a time when people need to find ways to connect with each other when they can't in person more than ever before. For that reason, you know, I think that the world really actually needs what we're doing in particular right now. Maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think whoever harnesses the ability to virtually connect as close as, you know, a human touch will be the winner of these sweepstakes. And you know, it's going to be, I think there's going to be huge industries and businesses that are going to be launched to fill this void which people have, because, you know, I was reading in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that you know, in France and Europe, a lot of them, you know, when they greet each other, they give the two kisses, and that's pretty much gone.
Yeah.
The handshake deal seems like it's gone in the U.S.
Yeah.
Seems like we're, you know, just keeping a safe distance from each other, but human need for contact and for, you know, fellowship that's never going to stop.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a really good point. Like, we kind of see all this craziness and the dramatic changes going on today, but it's hard to imagine, how that's going to play out here going forward. I mean, as you said, like Fauci's talked about, Dr. Fauci, you know, has talked about the possibility of, you know, handshakes permanently being gone. it's almost unimaginable, I'd say, like a society where, you know, you don't have that kind of gesture. It's so ingrained in our culture. Um,
Well, speak of that, so let's go back. Let's go back in the time machine here. So, one thing about Nathan is he's a pretty cool cat. He's like he's got such a cool background. So he grew up in Lisle, went to the best grade school in the world, St. Joan of Arc in Lisle. Then he went to Bennett Academy. Ended up going out west, Western Illinois. What was the name of the college you went to, Nathan?
Augustana.
Augustana. Went to Augustana. But then after that, that's when it got interesting. So Nathan headed out to the Peace Corps sometime and ended up in, of all places, Armenia.
Yeah.
Tell us how that ended up. How'd you end up in Armenia?
Oh yeah, well, the story of how I ended up there in particular. Well, in college, kind of, I knew that I'd wanted to continue my education beyond college, so I kind of decided to do Peace Corps. Because I wanted to kind of do something impactful with the education that I'd accumulated up to that point, and to kind of go out and do something I felt concrete and meaningful, you know, before pursuing a graduate education. So Peace Corps seemed like a great option. It absolutely was. When I enrolled, though, that was in 2002, late 2002, 2003. I was originally applying, and there's this kind of the process by which you are placed. You basically choose a continent of preference as to where you'd like to go. And I asked for Africa. And initially, I did get placed in Africa. They placed me in Morocco, which would have been amazing, you know. They speak Arabic and Spanish there. It's probably like winning the Peace Corps lottery, in the sense that you know, you're right there by the Mediterranean and the Atlantic potentially, and you know, would have been a rich culture, rich history. But that was also right when 9/11 happened. So as a consequence of that, Peace Corps closed a number of programs in countries, including Morocco. So they said, okay, hold tight. We'll find another place for you. And the next option they came back with was actually, of all things, China. And so I said, well, that was definitely not on my radar at all. It wasn't even in the continent that I was, you know, looking at or thinking of. But
where's that? Where was that?
China.
China. Okay.
Now it's interesting. I doubt they have a Peace Corps program there anymore. But 20 years ago, it's hard to even imagine. Not even 20 years ago, China's position in the world and what they were doing was just totally different. But yeah, there were Peace Corps volunteers going over there back then, and yeah, they assigned me to China, and you know, that seemed like a great alternative for a bunch of reasons. But then, you know, SARS broke out, so China got closed. And after that, then they offered me the choice of Ukraine or Armenia. And Armenia actually seemed like the country that I knew less about, and in some ways more exotic location. So that was what I chose. Not really honestly knowing too much about either country, but yeah, it was amazing. An amazing experience living there.
Did you speak any language in Armenia?
Armenian, yes. I learned it over the course of the time there.
Well,
different, you know, where you're placed has a big impact on your actual opportunity to learn the language. So I was the first volunteer ever placed in this village, and it was the last village out on the road to the disputed Karabakh territory between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So it's pretty remote. Nobody there spoke a lick of English. I doubt anyone in the village had ever met an American before. I had a huge opportunity to learn Armenian there, and I devoted myself pretty well to it. So I came out on Peace Corps has like an 11-tier evaluation scale, and in my exit interviews I was 9 on 11, with 11 being native speaker, 10 being essentially you can say anything. There may be some you have an accent, and probably there's some weird, colloquial phrases that you're gonna get wrong. You're gonna say things awkwardly. But I was right under that not 9 advanced high, which is kind of um like basically you can express anything you want, although sometimes people are gonna think that you sound like everyone's gonna know that you're not Armenian, that's for sure. Um,
So tell me what you gathered. Just give me a paragraph on what you learned in that 2 years that you were in Armenia.
oh wow, boy, it was a lot, but at the same time, not always things that are easy to put into words. Concisely, let's just say. Um, I guess more than anything, I learned what it's like to live in an undeveloped rural area that is basically um, in poverty. To, to I lived with essentially I shared my house with a young family who were kind of just starting out on their own and really had nothing. They had 2 kids, but through some various history and circumstances, were kind of had essentially ended up in the winter there with nothing. So they were kind of living off debt from the local stores just to get some basic food, and I was kind of just sharing the firewood that I had with them. They couldn't really afford any themselves, and the on the other hand, my good friends, the kind of closest people I had that lived in the village, like my neighbors across the street, they were considered like fairly well to do in that the father that lived there had well, they owned their own house. First of all, they had some land they farmed, and the father that lived there actually was the military science academy at the local school. So that's which was essentially, aside from farming, the only actual job in town. There were a few people that had like local goods stores, but other than that, it's teachers and farming was essentially the entire economy. Um,
So what was your job when you were in the Peace Corps in Armenia?
I taught English in the school.
Okay, so and how many kids were in the school?
This was a fairly big village. The village population overall was about 4,000, and I want to say that our school had something like 600 kids in it. Um,
Wow.
so pretty big for a village. There are some villages that have like 500 people. So for it's not huge, but was a moderately large village there.
So you got out of there, and then did you head to law school right away after that?
Um, well, not exactly. No. After I finished, I devoted myself actually so much to learning Armenian. When I kind of got done, I realized, wait, I'm pretty good at this Armenian thing, but I'm never going to be able to speak it ever again with anyone because there's only like 15 million people in the world that actually speak Armenian, and I certainly don't know any of them. So I thought, well, maybe it would be, maybe I could go somewhere now to learn maybe a language that might be more practical. And so I actually spent a year in Russia, actually in Moscow, studying Russian, and and coming back after that, I came back and basically took the LSAT and then applied for law school.
So you spent a year in Moscow
Yeah.
back in the early 2000s. That must have been quite an eye opener for you.
Yeah, yeah. And again, just like I said with China, like I couldn't express, I would not feel safe going either there or to even Armenia, which was a very safe country really now. Like the difference, as 15 years later, the difference is just night and day between the politics and relationship between the countries. That was a pretty high point, actually, I think, in the relationship between the U.S. and Russia. But even then, yeah, Moscow was a scary place. There were a lot of neo-Nazis there. There were gangs that basically warned the embassies there to, on Hitler's birthday, like, just tell your people don't go out. We're gonna like go and find and beat people up tonight. So I guess courteous of them to give that warning. Yeah, in retrospect, I had even then, I look back, I think back to that, and I think, wow, that was it would have been so easy for something to go wrong, and you just be like helpless there, without really any resort, if you got into trouble in some way.
Hmm.
Uh,
So those environments, the Armenian environment and the Russian environment, that kind of ambiguity you lived in, and that's got to kind of help you for a startup.
yeah, it's a good point. Well, I would say yes. The getting those different perspectives, especially considering what it is we're trying to do, yeah, will be absolutely invaluable. Um,
That's good. I like
uh,
it. So then, what's you ended up at Washington and Lee, right?
yeah, yeah, law school.
You went to law school there. Then you did some work out there. I know you did some work for some miners
Hmm.
out there, trying to help them get benefits for all the occupational disease to miners, right?
Yes, worked at Washington Lee. One of the reasons that well, really, the main reason I went to Washington Lee was that they had a clinic, a black lung clinic that's active with the West Virginia coal miners. And they basically try to help those miners adjudicate their cases before the Black Lung Benefits Review Board, in the basically administrative system there. Essentially, for that these relief systems that have been set up for miners who have gotten pulmonary diseases from inhaling rock dust for decades, to get some kind of compensation. So yeah, that was I got wow, that was so I that was why I chose Washington Lee. I did get to work there for my third year, and the opportunities there, the things I got to do, I still look back um and I can't even believe it. I got to while I was there, I got to present a case in the administrative court, and basically the trial level petition for benefits. I got to handle some briefing before the intermediary court, the Benefits Review Board, which is kind of a preliminary appeal, and I even got to actually draft briefing and do an oral argument for the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals on for another case. Mixed
Yeah.
results in some of those, but it was immensely satisfying getting to meet these miners and their families and survivors in some cases, and try to get them some kind of relief or even help for their conditions, because a lot of them were completely disabled with extremely low pulmonary function, basically, which when you have like 30% pulmonary function, you're might as well be paralyzed. Basically, can't move.
Yeah. You know what? The one thing that, in my experience, work with Nathan is he's an unbelievable writer, but just had a huge heart for the clients, and so we're really lucky to have him, help me write a number of different publications, and he just did a great job. And
Thanks, Joe.
but I like the hard part of it, that he always was thinking about the client first. And but Nathan, maybe you could just tell us, as we close up this interview, a little bit about your family. You got a growing family there, my friend.
Yeah. We welcomed our new daughter, third girl, here in December, Delphi. But I've got my wife, Sarah Eva, who your fans and viewers will probably recognize from last week. And we have three girls together: Nautica, who's 6, Millie, who's going to turn 4 in July here, and Delphi, who was born in December. Yeah, they're can't believe now. We basically came back to Illinois from San Diego shortly after Nautic was born. Can't even believe it. 6 years, and for a good portion of that time we were working together. I was Joe. I was working at Shannon Law Group, and boy, yeah, time flies, man.
It does. I'm telling you. Yeah, and I've got 4 daughters myself, a couple boys too, but those daughters, man, they're wrapped around your finger there, Nathan. You've got no hope.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It's shameful how easily they can manipulate us.
Well, you have some great stories to tell them about all your adventures. I mean, I don't have any adventures like yours, man. Going to Russia, going to Armenia, and traveling the world, and wow, it's just it's great. And so we'll wait to read your big novel about something like the next Dostoevsky novel or whatever comes out. I mean, Tolstoy. This guy, he speaks Russian, he speaks Armenian, speaks a little bit of English. He's done a good job. But hey, Nathan, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Any closing words?
No, I can't. Not really. Just glad to get to be on the show. Great to talk to you and Joe. And yeah, I can't wait to see where you guys take this podcast and hear what's coming down next down the pike for Shannon Law Group.
Yeah, we'll check in and see what's going on with fluorocracy. I hope that thing just takes off and that you're able to get that niche and where, because it is a great product and it's a great concept and I really like it. So good luck to you in Sarajevo and to Rockford.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the opening statement with Joe Shannon. You can find us on the internet at shannonlawgroup.com or telephone our office at 312-578-9501. Have a terrific day.